Welcome to Thriving Your Love, a podcast where we will guide and help you improve your most precious relationships in life. This podcast is produced and hosted by certified emotionally focused therapist Claudio Vargas Silva, licensed marriage and family therapist, and Trisha Kim Walsh, also licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Thriving Your Love. It's Trish and Claudio. Today we are going to talk about another fantastic topic. We feel like it's a universal topic that can be applied to every part of our lives, and that's unconditional worth, Claudio. And really what that layers into is that securely attached way of us being present and valuing us. Valuing all that we have to offer. And something that I've learned in a lot of my meditations and mindfulness practice is that we're inherently worthy. We are whole the moment that we take first breath. And there's something really cerebral and special about that, Claudio, to be reminded that we don't have to do more than just to be. And we're in this path, as I tell my clients, to learn about our worthiness. And as we deepen in our worthiness, we get to celebrate and delight in the worthiness of others. So I'm loving this topic. I'm excited to get right into it. Claudio, I'd love to invite you to share about your thoughts on unconditional worth and why it matters so much that we're talking about this topic and how this pertains to our viewers and listeners' lives.
Yes, thank you, Trisha, to introduce this topic. And I liked what you said that the moment that we are born and we take the first breath, we are already worthy of love. We are already valuable. But for some reason, we may not really feel valuable. It happens in different occasions. So let's say that we lose our job or we look at our appearance and we don't like something about us, or we don't get a good grade in a test. And these things makes us sometimes look down at ourselves, like how much money we make. We see someone that is very successful and has a lot of money, and we might compare ourselves to that person and we feel less. Or let's say that we are talking to someone and that person doesn't treat us well, or maybe our boyfriend, girlfriend breaks with us, and then we think, well, it's because I don't deserve their love. So there is sometimes a preoccupation with that. It causes a lot of suffering. And this is what we are talking today about, this sense of value, importance. When you feel less, when you look at yourself and there is something that you don't like at yourself, it might be your looks, it might be how much money you have, the position that you have at your job. You didn't get that promotion. So you might not realize that sometimes you feel down and you cannot accept yourself the way you are. And this is what we want today, right, Trisha? To help people that they can look at themselves and accept who they are instead of thinking that there's some problem with them, or something happened to them, they lost their value, or something happens and then they feel good about themselves and they are up and down, in this scale of a value. And we want people to feel better about themselves and that don't have that constant feeling, as I said, of up and down that causes so much stress, Trisha.
Right. And one of my favorite questions, Claudio, and I know you use this too in the work when you're with your clients, is to explore people's childhood, to understand how do we understand our worthiness, even if, again, we want to emphasize that all of us have full worth. But there are things that happen in our lives, all the examples you've given, Claudio, that make us question our worth. And whenever I ask clients about their childhood, about their adolescence, when they were teenagers, or even as young adults, they're able to clearly remember the moments when they felt they were not worthy, that they felt they had failed, or they had lost love with the people they love, or the people they were trying to emphasize their worthiness of, I'm deserving of worthiness. I know I'm I deserve to be loved. But in these moments, I didn't feel loved, or I questioned my lovability, my worthiness. And so that's really moments of where I do see it might not be uppercase T traumas like PTSD, but these are moments of attachment injuries, is what I call this with couples. So when I work with couples and they say, I never want these things that happened to me in childhood to ever happen again. So I'm going to do everything I can to prevent it. And that's where we get into perfectionism. And I know, Claudio, you experience this as well, as I work with a high volume of perfectionism. And it makes a lot of sense because in a way, Claudio, at least in this country, and I can't speak to other countries, but what I see often is this mindset of, if I'm perfect, then I deserve love. I deserve worthiness. But if I am human, if I make mistakes, which is really what we're created to be, is to, we are not machines, right, Claudio? Like, we are meant to experience life, and how we experience life is in that can be our flaws and our mistakes that actually allow us to deepen in our worthiness. But often clients that I work with name that they've been given messages throughout their life of getting everything 100%. And even think about that in the grading system in school, even in sports, there's a first place, so to speak. There's a top student, there's a gold medal in the Olympics, there's a first place, the teams that are going to the World Series, to the Super Bowl, to the World Cup. There's one. There's only one. There can only be one. But what's interesting, Claudio, is to be reminded is, think of what it takes to get even to that place. Is how many times did that team have to lose? How many times did that individual have to potentially place last? And it's an interesting journey. When I do ask clients, is tell me about your journey, understanding your own worthiness. And often they go into great detail and great lengths about the moments of recognition. If I don't get it perfect, then I'm not going to be deserving of love. And that's powerful. And I can relate to that. That's the work I'm doing, and I have been doing in my therapy work as well, Claudio.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you pointed out about the first place and second and third, and how people work towards that. What happens is, like, when people think that they need to win to be valuable, it gives them a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. Imagine that you're gonna go to that competition. You are placing your lovability, your worthiness, succeeding in being the first place. So that's going to make the person feel very stressed. And that's where people sometimes don't have pleasure in what they are doing because their preoccupation, I have to win. So it's like I was talking to someone, and the person plays volleyball. So this person places, like, worries a lot that she has to win. And if she doesn't win, she feels so down, so dejected. And then she thinks that her peers, are looking down on her, and she is mad on her teammates because they didn't play well, because she plays really well. But sometimes she's with people who don't play very well. But what she realizes is that they are having a lot of fun, and she's not having. She only feels good if she wins. But that's what we are talking today about, the unconditional worth. And it has also to do with your happiness, because if you think that your worthy is conditional, then you're going to think that your happiness is going to be conditional as well. Because what happens if you don't win? Then you're not happy. You look down at yourself. And this is what we are talking, right, Trisha, is that you can be second, third place, you can be even last place, but it doesn't change your worthy, your value as a human being. Yes, what happens is that you won, but your lovability, your importance as a human being didn't change anyway. But this is what causes people a lot of stress when in their daily lives, in everything that they do. Like, for example, I am driving someone cuts me off, he's putting me down, or someone is driving faster than me, or he's more valuable than me, I need to catch with him, I need to be the faster one to drive. So sometimes people are always competing, even looking the GPS, like when they are gonna get it some place, and then they try to drive faster to beat the GPS. And if they can get some, some minutes ahead, they feel like they have won. So for some people, it becomes very obsessive because they are always in everything, they are thinking about winning. Anything goes wrong in their lives, Trisha, they feel they are losers. So it's hard. Like, for example, if you are sick, then you think, oh, okay, I am sick, or I have a disease. Oh, people are not gonna like me anymore because of this disease. I'm not worthy of love. So it's really hard to live with this thing when we realize that we deserve love no matter what happens to us. It's so better for us to face things, to know if something doesn't go well in our lives, we still have our sense of value. Something didn't work well for us, we had some business that we are trying to, and it didn't go well with our business, we went bankrupt, but we didn't lose our value. We are still worth. We don't need to be ashamed, embarrassed. We don't need to feel bad about, like, someone asks us, and what about your business, and what about your health, and then I'm gonna say that to them. And how old are you? I don't want to say my age because I think that if people realize how old I am, they're not gonna like me anymore. So this is so hard to live like this. But I know, Trisha, that you said something about the attachment history and how these things start, right? You wanna say something about that?
It's to emphasize this all makes sense. This all makes sense, is that we care so deeply about earning love as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and we're constantly finding ways to be affirmed. Am I lovable? Am I deserving? Am I worthy? And I found for my clients that get these accolades, so they get that first place or they get that A plus. It doesn't replace the fact that what they want more than anything is connection. Because what do these things mean if you're at the podium and you've got the medal around your neck, or that you won the game, but the people around you resent you, don't like you because you haven't been a team member? In fact, you got so competitive that you were hurtful, you were aggressive, you were mean. You might have won, but what did you lose? And so that's the journey that we're naming, is along the way, never forget who you are. Never forget your values. Never forget that whether you win or you lose, you're still whole. You're still lovable. You're still deserving. Just because someone has a gold medal versus someone has a bronze, they're still an Olympic winner. And just because you don't medal doesn't mean that you're not successful, that you proudly represented your country amongst other athletes that would dream to come and represent their country because of their pride. And that's really what this is about, is community and connection. We all flawed, and there's no reason to hide it. However, we do hide it for fear it can be used against us, because sometimes it has. And so that's why I do like to spend that time, Claudio, to talk with my clients, to say, share with me your origin story. Tell me the times in which you did question your worthiness, and how much it makes sense that you're saying in your life, I never want to feel that way again, by my parents, by my friends, children, my romantic partners, my colleagues. We avoid pain, right? We are pleasure-seeking human beings. We want the dopamine fix. We're pushing hard on that. And if you think about when we're winning, there is endorphins that are created in that. But just even more powerfully is the connection of win or lose. If you feel the worthiness and connection of people that you surround yourself, that you choose, not just your family by blood, but the people you choose to connect with, friends, people from your faith community, people from your cultural community. A lot of my clients say, hey, it's hard to make friends. We spend time talking about ways they can be in a community that represent their values and ideals, so it enhances their confidence and their worthiness. I think, Claudio, like an example is we met each other through a community of therapists therapist and became really great friends. And look at that as we celebrate each other's victories and we're there for each other in our greatest moments of pain. Kind of the takeaway, Claudio, as I know we're coming to the end of today's episode, is to say what matters most is to never forget that you are fully deserving unconditionally of worthiness. And along the way, never forget that you're in a community of others that feel and think the same way you do, that are yearning to be worthy, that are yearning to be accepted, and that don't ever want to be alone, because that's really what our greatest fear is if I'm unlovable, if I'm unworthy, could that mean that I'm alone? We're always seeking that connection in small and big ways. And we're naming the connection. The most powerful connection is the connection within.
And Trisha, I was thinking that in the next episode, we can like talk more about where it comes from, because this is something that it comes somewhere and usually is in our childhood through the relationships that we have with our attachment figures. Because when we don't feel loved, and I want to emphasize that to our listeners, it is about not feeling loved, because I believe that most of us were loved, but for some reason we didn't feel. So there are different reasons we didn't feel loved. We didn't feel loved because maybe our caretakers, they were really busy making a living, to put a roof over our heads, and they couldn't really connect with us much. They didn't have much time, or maybe because in their own childhoods they didn't learn how to connect. They didn't have caretakers that connected to them, so they brought that to us. They couldn't be there for us. They could be critical of us, and maybe critical with good intentions because they want us to be better people, and then they didn't realize that criticizing, they caused us to feel less about ourselves and unworthy of their love. Like for example, when I talk to kids, I see that one of their biggest preoccupations is is my parent proud of me? Is my parent disappointed of me for some reason? Did I do something that caused my parent to be disappointed at me? And then when children don't feel really accepted and loved, what happens to them is that they think there is a problem with me. That's the magical thinking. For attachment reasons that we can explain better, Trisha, the next time, but usually when we are children, we think it's because of me. So, and in some way, it's beautiful, right? Like kids, they are not blaming their parents, they are blaming themselves. So this helps them to feel connected to their parents, but then they think it starts right there in childhood. I need to deserve to be loved. I have to have something that people are going to love me, because if I don't, no one will like me. Then it starts that preoccupation, looking for something and trying to be perfect. And then we don't realize that it doesn't have anything to do with us. There were circumstances, problems that our parents had. It wasn't about us deserving. And in life, it's also like that. It's not about deserving. So what we really want to emphasize is that to have close relationships, to be successful in our relationships, we just needed to learn to connect. That's what will help us. And what I have seen, people who are sometimes at the end of their lives, and when they look back to their lives, they are not worried about how successful they were, if they were able to do that master's degree or that doctorate degree, if they got to build a house or to buy a house, or they are not concerned about that. They are concerned about, like, was I able to have good relationships? Was I able to connect to my child? And that is what is the most important thing. So we don't have time to talk about everything today in this episode, but I look forward to next episode to build more on this, on what is important in life, right? The essence is that the important thing is connecting.
Exactly. Claudia. That's beautifully beautifully said. So I think a good place to pause here today, and just a great topic. And this is part one of unconditional worth. And hopefully the next time we can talk about the origin of where that worthiness starts is when we're little, and the little ones within are still talking to us and still have so much to share. And remember the moments when we didn't feel that. And there's really great ways to heal from that to this day. And we're excited that we can get the opportunity to give those insights. As always, Claudio, so wonderful to connect with you on a topic that another topic that I really am enjoying. And we look forward to having you all tune in to our next session. And thanks for joining Thriving Your Love with Trish and Claudio. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We hope you'll join us soon again for our next episode of Thriving Your Love.